welcome to Path of the Jaguar. Got our guest here, Kelvin. First, we got to start off with some ads. First off, our sponsor, Cove. Best designs online right now. Some fresh shit. Check it out. Grab yourself a hoodie or hat and show some support and love. Take a sip of your beer. Next one is, I'm sure you guys are already sick of paying your utility bills, getting hit by those fucking increasing bills every year. Well, guess what? You have another option now. You can go solar, help lower some bills while having a good impact on the environment. There is an email in the description. Send us an email. We'll set you up with one of our professionals who will see what we can do for you. Now we're ready. So, Kelvin, this is your first episode on.
Thank you for having me.
So
Silly Simon in the flesh.
Yeah, Silly Simon. Yeah, was that been better if I introduced you that way?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Chef Ramsay's.
Chef Ramsay's, Kelvin, Silly Simon. It's all the same.
It's all the same.
What's good, man? What's what you been up to? What you been working on?
Not much, man. Just trying to stay healthy. My brain healthy at least. Got to start hitting the gym soon too. And none, man. Just living. What about you?
Good. Nah, man. Just we've been pushing that site, Cove. It's been going well, and it's just nice to just spend time just creating, and with a potential, benefit from it in the future.
Right.
So it's like, oh, cool, money's gonna be coming in, but it's fun making these things that I've been making for years, but to have it on, where there's a purpose to it, it's a lot cooler.
Right.
And then getting this thing started, which has been great. And I just love this idea. Like, we do this all the time. We hang out all the time. But now I'm sitting across from you with microphones and a camera, and it's just a different thing. Because again, it's like I was saying before, we were doing this before, but now there's this purpose to it.
Right.
So it's cool to
added
see
benefits, and now it's not just about us.
It's not about.
We're working here now.
It's about us.
So it's yeah, it's great. I was gonna ask you earlier when you were talking about when you're working on your more creative side, Unseen Cove stuff. Mm-hmm. Do you always go into it with ideas? Do you ever do you spontaneously go in, or is it a mixture?
Both. It's a mixture. Yeah. Like a lot of the time, the ideas pop in my head while whether I'm in bed or I'm working or I'm walking around. I'm like, oh, cool, that'd be cool. Or if I see something. But there's other times that I just sit down on the computer knowing that I have to create something and then
putting in the work.
Yeah, but within 30 seconds, a minute, I'm going to put something together. There's too many things that I like, so there's too many things that I can work around. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the other day I sat down and I'm like, oh, I like mushrooms. So let me create some of my mushrooms, and then I'm like, oh, then I ended up making a DMT molecule design, and it looked cool, and that's just it.
You're making it sound easy. I wish me making music was that easy. A lot of times I sit there and classic writer's block, or I'll get something and just revert to the make a shitty song a day. That's a great way for that.
Yeah, and there's plenty of times I make shitty designs, and it's just again, it's part of the process. I'm getting better, I'm learning the programs better and all that. But you can't really compare music to me putting up a doodle. You know what I mean? You're putting together a 2 to 5 minute thing, and it's got to be cohesive and it has to sound good. Where it's like with this, it's just. Also, you've been making music for what, 5 years now? 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, about 5 years.
I've been drawing since I was 7.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's also just an image can pop up into my head quite easily.
Right.
Where you can't think up of a song. You know what I mean? You're not going to think a 3-minute song together. No. But I can think of an entire image.
Right.
And then work from there. But it's just, again,
that's great. Yeah, I don't typically have that visual creativity. At least I have to put some effort into consciously trying to do that. Where it's cool. We're both creatives, but different type of creatives. So
it's nice to be a creative. Yeah. Like listening, of course, we're gonna bring up Jordan Peterson within the first 5 minutes. Like it's so cool. Knowing that it's not a common thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody's being told, oh yeah, anybody can be creative, but that's not how it works.
Right.
And it's cool. Like, oh shit, I got, I rolled the dice, and my parents rolled the dice, and luckily I got the creative.
Right.
The what?
Thrownness is what you're describing.
Thrownness? What is that?
Thrownness is the idea of, which is exactly what you're explaining. Okay. But it's the idea of you didn't choose to be this Dominican person.
No.
You didn't choose your IQ. You didn't choose that you're more extroverted. Mm-hmm. You don't choose these characteristics about yourself. You're kind of just thrown into it. Like it's a video game.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, this is what I have to work with.
Yeah. And I might be a little biased, but I think I rolled the best traits. I love fucking with, being
That's
like
funny.
liking reading.
That's good.
Like,
That's
yeah.
good. That's everybody should feel the same way because everybody's
True, of
equal.
course. Because if you end up just rolling the dice and getting, you end up being an athletic, like person who loves sports, you're gonna love that thing. But what's better than sci-fi and art and intellectual conversations? I don't know.
Yeah. So the creative gets many benefits, but they also get they go through a lot of suffering that other people don't have to.
Yeah.
Because obviously they get more enjoyment out of art and music. They literally get more enjoyment out of colors and art. They get to appreciate things more than non-creatives. But also, the classic idea of the struggling artist, because it's very hard to monetize your creations. So in that sense, you always need to create something, and you don't want to necessarily work for other people. You want to do what you want to do, but it's just super hard.
Yeah.
Your stuff can be just as good as people on the radio, but
it's just not how it works.
Yeah, there was a lot of...
Because the reason why their music is on the radio is because there's money being made.
Right.
And it's hard to align finances and your purpose and your love for creativity.
And connections and things just having to fall together. Meeting people. Certain person hears your song, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, it is like this unfortunate thing. Like Adventure Time has this cool little thing, like all the wizards, like they say how, because again they're creative, powerful beings, but they deal with madness and sadness.
Right.
And it's such a perfect metaphor for artists.
Right.
Because we are constantly going through the chaos.
That's perfect.
It's so perfect. I fucking love that shit. But like that's the perfect metaphor for it. Because they're
in chaos.
Yes.
They have one foot in chaos and one foot in order,
Yep.
and they're trying to bring the chaos sorted out and share with everybody else. They're on the frontier of civilization.
It is magical and wonderful and all these things, but there are side effects from it.
Right. Definitely.
Because you're on a sine wave. You know what I mean? Because to be able to pull these crazy, wonderful things, you have to deal with your opposites.
Right.
So to deal with happy, like you get the higher.
You need to go somewhere to bring it, and where you go isn't necessarily a safe place. Well, it definitely isn't a place that you know how to go in about taking things out of it. And so there's the creative side, and then there's the creative intellectual side, which is a whole nother thing. Because then you're sorting out ideas and concepts and thoughts, and for example, I read Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, and it's just intense because I'm reading the book. It's about like this nihilistic, depressed, super intelligent, narcissistic college student, and he ends up committing a murder, and then because he thinks he can get away with it, he justifies himself that he'd be able to do it. He's a person that would be able to deal with the implications, and turns out it was wrong, and he has to deal with the consequences. And I'm just putting myself in his perspective, and it's just, I was going through like weeks of anxiety just reading this, like, oh my god, like I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to like relax because it's cool, and that is something that you need to have the intellect and the creative to be able to grasp that. To take the like intuitive leaps that the author created and meant. Yeah. You got to see his implications, or at least some of them.
Yeah, and like to bring it back to Adventure Time, like I was watching these episodes the other day. Also segue. I was on some substances while I was watching it as well. I did some mushrooms yesterday. I'll get into that in a little bit.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. The mushroom candies and.
Oh, nice.
Those nice
I want to hear about that.
But like watching it while I was tripping a little bit.
You're being like mindful.
Yeah, and also just putting myself in the brain of the writers and the cartoonists, because the show is so wacky and the most random things happen, and like
that's a cool thing to be able to do.
And it's watching is like I wish I could be that creative because it's so wild. There's no sense to it at certain points, and I'm sure there's a lot of sense that they put into it, but it's like a kid who's watching that would not get what's actually going on. A person had to think of these things. It was like these elephants walking around a volcano, and they were doing a chant, and then an elephant flew out of it, and it was like, that wasn't even a main part of the story. It was just this 3-second thing that happened, and it just like, it blew my mind that someone can be that creative, and then they can pull that out of the ether and out of their mind, and the implications of what that has on their brain, if they're thinking like that,
right.
there's probably some crazy shit that is flowing around these people's brains.
Right, like what does a day in the life of like their brain look like? And same thing with like Rick and Morty or all these other shows. Or Black Mirror. God, do you watch Black Mirror?
Yeah. I only watched 2 episodes out of the new season. So
right.
Watch what?
I've only seen like
now? Oh my god.
4 seasons. I've seen like 3 episodes or 4 like all together, and they're just extremely creative with the ideas they come up with. And,
but it's also like these things are already on our mind though.
Right.
Like Black Mirror specifically, because it's like.
Well, it's where we're going.
Exactly.
This technology is
yeah,
where
they're
we're
taking
going.
little pieces of like what we're doing now, like the internet and our phones and how we interact with like machines and all these things, and it's like these are not unrealistic things.
Right.
Like where these cartoons is like, okay, that can never happen, but like with Black Mirror, it's like they're communicating with something that's on its way.
Right.
Like that is some of these things are going to happen in our future.
Right.
Not all of it, because some of them conflict, but it's.
I like the idea that fiction can be more real than actual real like novels or reality itself.
Oh, yeah.
Because reality puts restrictions. There's only so much you can express in a film or in a book, perhaps. But if in mythology or fiction or cartoons, there's so many more metaphorical implications they can express. So I like that idea, and I never realized that until recently.
What made you?
Jordan Peterson. I've heard that before, but I never really put much mind into it until recently.
Because you have to think extremely creatively to keep up with the universe. Because the universe is way more creative than we are. Like, you know what I mean? We think of these things like when you watch like a sci-fi movie and there's like aliens walking around, like our imagination on it is lacking. It's like every alien is bipedal, and they have 2 eyes and a nose and a mouth, and you know, it's too similar to us. And like, the universe is pumping out crazier stuff on other planets right now. You know what I mean? It's just with its ability to create life. Like when you think of octopus.
Well, what crazy in what sense? Physically, or like when I think of humans and creating, I think of consciousness, and like, what the fuck is consciousness? How did the universe or whatever the fuck, how did they figure that out?
I meant like just like physically.
Right.
Like again, just the
physically, absolutely.
Yeah,
there's some
and I'm sure
fucking freaky shit out there.
And the same deal, like, you know, in these movies and these cartoons where there's aliens, like they still operate similarly to us. They still have like similar religions and similar government bodies and things like that. So
right.
What they could be doing is
like there's only so far we can go out.
Yeah,
and they're like all the way over there. We can only the creative people can only go so far into the known territory, and so they can only go so far. But the shit to access the perhaps crazy alien or whatever living organisms are out there, we don't even have like the reference to articulate their limbs or whatever the fuck it is.
Because like we're building this thing, but we can only build this thing with the pieces that we already have.
Right.
So it's like, okay, we have the fact that humans are bipedal, and we have the fact that we have guns. So like, you know, you put those pieces in that, those are the species that we create in our, you know, in our sci-fis and all that. But like it's like how we speak about, like, you know, the whole Fermi paradox. Like, why haven't aliens come to Earth yet? Why haven't they hopped on their spaceships and flew over here and talked to us? And it's, why do we assume that that's what they would do? That's what we would do. Hop into a spaceship and make this vehicle.
Because we're extremely warlike and dominating. We just want to conquer and spread out and create more order.
Yeah, and maybe that's not.
Other aliens are probably like, we just want peace, man.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like, leave us alone.
Or hey, let's just build a big machine and just hook up to it. Now we don't have to travel the universe. Or we can leave this universe. Why travel this weird thing with rocks and suns, and why not travel to other dimensions and learn? Whatever. Again, our imagination is not going to match up what it can actually happen in this practically infinite universe.
Right, they probably like woke up from the game already. Holy fuck!
Yeah,
detached the shit. That shit was crazy. Like they figured it out already, and we're still here. Like, oh man, like what the fuck, God?
Well, we're still in the beginning. We still haven't left home base. You know, we're still starting off there.
Right. Well, maybe we're getting further. I believe that the reintegration of religion into society, I think that is a huge thing for people to consider, even regardless if they're atheists or not. And especially people who are limited by materialistic rational materialistic methodologies or whatnot, thinking that everything needs to be scientific, explained, rational, experiment. If you can't prove it, I'm not believing it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you gotta be more romantic with the way you think. Like, for example, what the fuck are emotions? Like, you can't disregard emotion. You can't disregard anger or sadness or happiness. Like, yeah, you can explain, like, you know, on a biology level, like what creates it, but the actual experience itself, what the fuck is that? Can't explain it.
Yeah, not yet, at least.
That there's forms of philosophy that are built. I don't know if it's epistemology or something, but they start with that presupposition of, like, how do you explain emotions or whatnot? Like, since it can't be explained, this is a real experience, just as real as, like, materialistic things, if not more real. So let's branch out of that. So you can't deny it. You can't remove that as part of in scientific inquiry. So
which is weird because
that's
like,
more of a romantic side. So it's like, and I feel like that's more part of mythology and whatnot. At least that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, because like it drives me crazy that someone can sit there and say like, oh, they have a scientific mind, and then that's why they dismiss like things.
It's arrogant.
Yeah, but so they'll go and they'll look at like religion and be like, oh, that's so narrow-minded, but they themselves are being narrow-minded by not even looking into it or even just having the open mind. Like, they know they can't just dismiss this whole realm of whatever it is that, you know, like when you think about like our consciousness, like how can you dismiss this whole thing without even looking into it and say that, yo, you're being logical and you're being rational and you're being scientific? You're not being scientific. You're not, because you're just gonna throw this whole shit out the window without even considering it as a thing, because they themselves have put themselves in a religion, because now they're dogmatic about it. No. Everything that we know so far is right, and if it contradicts it in any way, there's no way we can.
Even if it is, like, obviously I'm a scientist. I have an engineering degree, but we only know so much with science. So it's like, for you to be arrogant and like, we figured out until we prove it, but it's like the universe is just extremely complicated, and we only live on Earth. So it's like, it's kind of arrogant to disregard tools that might potentially help us seek further things. And I forgot my train of thought, but the idea is that religion is just another tool to search and discover, go into chaos, and bring back order. And I remember now what I was going to say. For example, Carl Jung and his psychology, and psychology in the first place is not really a science, it's more of a philosophy, applied philosophy. And archetypical psychology works depending on the person, if you're very creative and intuitive. But for you, if you're a patient, it would work on you because you could see an archetype, you'll be able to understand it. And it works, and it can remove suffering from people. And it's very based on mythology. It's not really, it has science in it, but it's more philosophy and, you know, mythology. And it works. So how can you deny it?
Yeah. And
it's
you
like,
would be able to understand those things scientifically.
You can't deny it. There's people that deny it. So
yeah, like, because you can get into the brain and see where these archetypes come from. You know, like, oh, okay, this is why this archetype arises in people, because it's beneficial in this way in evolution and this interaction. Like, it can do that, but for whatever reason, they could just dismiss it, and it's weird. And I think
you can't prove it. You can't prove archetypes, and it's like, yeah, you can't. That's the whole point.
Not fine. We can't. We can't prove a lot of things yet.
Right.
Just give it some time. You know. And like, I think just the thing that came out inconveniently was the fact that religion decided that it was going to explain the origins of our universe and humans, and that contradicts with science.
Well, that started with Christianity.
Really?
Christianity had the thinking of asking questions, had a lot of philosophy based on back in European history. It was very heavily based on inquiry and finding itself out. So the idea is that Christianity was so philosophical and whatever, it's a religion. And then eventually it started asking questions and questions and questions. It started undermining its presuppositions of God, and it destroyed itself.
Yeah.
And it fell apart, and now we're in a society where there's a potential rise of nihilism. And that's why it's like, well, if we're nihilistic, then that's where totalitarian civilizations can come in, like 1984 or whatnot, or Brave New World.
People just walk around miserable and treating each other like shit.
Exactly.
And that affects the community again, and now things are crumbling down. But like, yeah,
we lost our connections.
and it's annoying, and it's unfortunate because there's so many benefits from religion. So again, the spirituality and communal consciousness and all these things that these things offer, they lose what it is because now we're worried about who created us and where do we go after we die. We don't know those things. Those things we'll find out scientifically. What religion is better used for is, again, bringing people together.
Did you say science will figure it out?
I think science can eventually figure out origins of humans, at least.
What do you mean by that?
Like
how we came to be conscious?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we can figure out
what do you mean by
origins? Yeah, I think so. I think with science we'll be able to figure out the origins of consciousness, humans, and the beginning of the universe at a certain
if we get that far, if we live that far,
if we live
maybe.
that far. But I think so.
I don't know.
You couldn't do it philosophically. You can't just ponder on it.
This is the thing. Is I don't know if the tools we have in science, if we have the tools enough yet to get those answers. We probably haven't constructed. For example, when I think of quantum mechanics. Yes? Or
fine.
at all, or we might not. We can't find those. We probably can never get those questions.
Yeah, I'm completely fine with that. I can agree with that. We might not ever, even if we live for billions of years, we'll probably still be searching for these same answers. I can accept that, but I don't think we'll be able to figure that out in a book that somebody wrote, or just again sitting there in your living room thinking about it.
It's a tool, and different ways of thinking are tools too. So we don't have the tools to figure this shit out.
Exactly.
I mean,
but
maybe
that's better equipped for it. My point is now that religion is better for, again, keeping our consciousness in order and working better with people.
Right.
Again, we get so much purpose and happiness from religion, and we can work better with it. But it's not going to get us our origins. While science, it'll tell us how things work, and it'll give us more of an understanding, and we can expand our knowledge with it. But it's not going to bring us happiness and purpose. They're two different tools.
Okay.
They're not conflicting. They conflict on certain ends, but the things that they conflict on, it's because one of them is not good at it, or one of them is not actually supposed to be.
Right. So I agree with the idea that they're both tools.
Yeah.
And they're both about going into chaos or breaking chaos apart, so we can understand reality or understand how we live. Not necessarily the purpose of religion. I don't necessarily know the purpose of it.
Yeah, who knows?
I think it was just a tool that helped us. It was just stories and mythologies that helped us understand the phenomenon of living.
Well, I would say its purpose is like every other thing that
create order.
Order, but survival specifically. The communities that could work better and were more purpose driven and can expand and create civilization and work on a magnitude of hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people in a tribe or a city. If they didn't have the religion and the laws that glued them together, they would have just fell apart, or they would have killed each other, or whatever could have happened.
Right.
So I think it was all based on survival, because otherwise, why else would they?
They're like the pre-laws. Ethics. It's ethics.
Yeah,
and how we should. And shit, if you don't follow ethics, you're gonna suffer even more. So I mean, definitely, it's a guidebook of how to be and how to be peacefully.
Yeah, because if you have people who are running around the tribe killing people, well,
they don't do that. Hunter-gatherers don't do that.
Yeah.
Because
there's no purpose to it.
Small bands and tribes, you can't kill people because you need each other.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get food that day as hunter-gatherer, and you come back, everybody else is sharing with you. So everybody needs to be respectful and courteous, and you can't be selfish. You need to be selfless and constantly be contributing.
Right,
or else, if you act out, they'll either banish you or kill you.
And now you don't survive. So the people who are acting wild and not following the.
And that's rare. That's a really rare thing. According to things I read.
Yeah, no, and I can imagine that because it's counterproductive to.
It just makes sense.
Continuance, because if you're biting the hand that feeds, well, guess what? You're not eating, and if you're not eating, you're no longer gonna be alive, and then you're gone now.
Right.
So it's again it allows the people to survive and work better together and so on and so forth. So I can see that being its purpose, but then it starts to expand on itself.
You're saying religion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because now it's not just about how do we work well with each other? But it's like,
well, it's funny because
how should I behave?
Right.
You know,
it's funny because like societies are there's bands of just people, which is just a few dozen people, and then there's tribes, which could be we're hundreds, and then there's chiefdoms, which are like thousands, tens of thousands, and then you get like states, and then like empires. Mm-hmm. And so as you get more and more sophisticated, you get more sophisticated systems because there's going to be a surplus of food, mm-hmm. more people, so we can dedicate people to creating religion or whatnot, or laws or whatnot. So and they all. You know, I think the whole idea is like since we're getting bigger and bigger, we need more articulate and complicated and more competent tools to keep everybody glued together and maintain order. Mm-hmm. Because when we're small, it's easy. We're all egalitarian and everybody we don't need leadership. Mm-hmm. Everybody like
knows
a leader.
Each other. Yeah. Like you're not worried about someone running into your hut and stealing your stuff because
right. It's just not
why
gonna
would
happen.
they do that? You know, but now if it's
we're gonna know who you are.
Exactly.
Right.
But if the person doesn't know you, it's
which
easy.
you can get away with right now with cyberbullying and all this shit. Mm-hmm. Like it's just a mess.
Or any type, like, you know, so you can rob somebody on the street. You might not see them. You're in Brooklyn. You can rob somebody and be out, and you can live a couple miles away, but never bump into each other, and you can get away with it.
Right. You can do it again.
Yeah. You can do it again. Yeah.
And keep taking my shit.
Same fucking guy. You see somebody walking around with your sneakers and your hat. You guys your whole outfit on. Again, you can get away with that because you can hide behind the crowd. Or you couldn't do that before. So yeah, things have to become more sophisticated to keep order. Because if it doesn't, then shit. Well, people are gonna get pissed, and people are getting killed. You know.
Right.
Because again, that guy can rob me. He can get away with it, and I can find him a couple weeks from now, and I can kill him. But I'm not gonna kill him because I'm gonna get arrested by the other guy who's in a blue uniform, who's hired, who we're all putting money towards him keeping us from killing each other. And that same guy was going to help me from getting robbed in the first place. So it's like...
that comes back to the idea that everybody... Let's say you kill him, then we're going after you. Yeah. So it's like... And if, let's say, hey, blue guy, he took my shit or whatever he did to me. He's like, all right, great. Like, prove it. So the idea is like, why are we... why the ethics runs so deep in us that why is it that we treat people innocent until proven guilty? Like that's such a complicated idea for us to come up with in civilization. Most civilizations nowadays, at least like first world countries, that everybody's just, or at least in America, innocent until proven guilty. It's like what the fuck?
And that's not an idea
great.
that
it's amazing.
Me and you thought of, or any of these people think like these are.
Like, we built this over a long time, and I think we're going somewhere, and I think.
Oh, we've been, yeah.
I think we're on and off track, and Trump's gonna save America. We're gonna make America great again.
We'll hold up to Trump for a second, but like it's actually perfect because you have like the whole innocent until proven guilty. Like we're talking about highly intellectual philosophers who are putting together the country. These people who knew as much as they possibly could, like the founding fathers, to think of this idea because. The average person wouldn't treat it that way.
Nah.
I feel like they wouldn't. They would be like, no, fucking like I remember in high school.
If you're not gonna kill him, I'm gonna kill him.
Yeah, I remember a girl saying that when like Michael Vick was fighting dogs, that he should be put to death because he was like, he was doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. But like, okay, so that's how you figure this out. Like he's hurting dogs, so he should be hurt and killed. Like, no, there's probably a better way around that. So it's just we are emotional. And we're reactive, but then somehow these ideas come up, like over
that we figured,
shit, we're these divine important things, and we don't deserve to be murdered and tortured and things like that because I'm human. If that if we can torture that person and kill them, well, what does that mean to me? And then the implications on your emotions and the way you view life and your experience and our experiences are very important to us.
Your rights are my responsibility. I have to give you. And maintain your rights. Whatever rights you have, freedom of speech or right to bear arms or right to privacy or whatever, like your rights are my responsibility.
Because they're your rights too.
And same way vice versa. Yeah. I have to preserve whatever rights you have, and that's a cool idea. Like that I never thought about. Where it's like everybody's preaching rights nowadays and rights versus rights, but we lost like the connection with taking responsibility, and that's the other side of it. You can't have rights without responsibility because in order to have rights, somebody needs somebody is on the other side of the bargain, you can say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Somebody's upholding your rights.
Yeah, because there's no such thing as a free lunch. Nothing's perpetual. Like,
right.
We need to maintain this.
Right.
And then taking responsibility is not something that everybody wants to do because sometimes we're lazy and entitled. So yeah, that's a really good point. Because we want rights.
Yeah, like if you're gonna blame me, you infringed my rights. Like I'm allowed to do this, or whatever it is, and then so the person, you have to hold the person accountable. And then again, you gotta either bring them to court, or they're gonna either fess up and be like, yeah, sure, like I fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really cool thing, and God, the fact that we figured this shit out, it's such a great time. But there's things going wrong and there's things going right. But I think with the reintegration of religion or some form of connection, we're gonna be back on the right path.
I'm gonna say it's broader than that. I'm gonna say it's not just religion; it's just education. Because
well, that's what I said. Religion or some type of connection, some type of
education of all these things, including religion, and what we are and where we've been, because
ethics and education,
all of it, because that's when shit starts going wrong, when people aren't aware of what's actually, because people don't think about things. Again, the whole responsibility and our rights. These same people who want to be taken care of, and they want their college to be paid for, and they want to make sure that everybody has health insurance.
Who doesn't want to be taken care of?
Yeah, we want to be taken care of.
Everybody wants a father.
Those people also don't want to pay taxes. So it's like, wait, what? Again, you want the rights,
right,
but you don't want the responsibility. But you can't have the rights without the responsibility.
Right. And
again, if you don't tell somebody that, if you don't explain that to that person, they're not gonna. Again, they're not gonna be educated, and they're not gonna be able to actually discuss what are the solutions.
We need to hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
And shit, I mean, I think we're on. I really hope another celebrity does not become president. That's what I hope.
It's gonna happen, man.
I really hope that, because then it's like, God damn, we're going way too deep into that rabbit hole. But people are waking up, and that's another way that people are connecting to the fact that Trump's president. So it's like
he's the Antichrist.
God.
So I said this to you earlier. Do you know what I literally mean by Antichrist?
What?
It's so funny, man. Because when Obama was president, like, you had all the super right conservative conspiracy theorists. Like, they were actually speaking on the fact that Obama's the Antichrist.
Oh my God.
Because it was predicted he would come up in this time, and the things that he's doing.
And he's
like
black.
Yeah, right. So, like, they actually thought he was the Antichrist in a mythological being way, right? He's gonna end the world. Mm-hmm. But I actually do think Trump was the Antichrist in a more metaphorical way, and what I think they actually meant in the Bible. Because Christ is the ideal man. He's the person that we want to strive to be like. He's generous. He's considerate. He could turn the other cheek. He's forgiving. He's
welcoming of all suffering. Everybody else's suffering, not just his own.
Yeah. And he takes responsibility for others. And if you were to sit there and write all of the adjectives that describe Jesus, and you were to take the antonyms and write a list of those, you would have someone who's like Trump. You know what I mean? And it's like, again, like selfish, self-absorbed, can't take responsibility, always pointing the finger at everybody else. Everything's me. Like, that's him. You know what I mean? Like, if there's anybody more capable of bringing the apocalypse, it would be that man right now.
Right.
A person who has the ability to drop bombs that eventually just kill everybody, because everybody else is going to start dropping bombs, but also can't take criticism or insults or doesn't want to work with people. That's the person who would end the world.
Right.
I don't think he will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know Trump personally, but all those characteristics exactly line up.
Yeah, it's not like...
That's so funny.
There's plenty of people who are just biased, and like, because they're on the blue team, they're just going to shit on everything he does. But if you really pay attention to the way he speaks and the way he behaves, like, you're not being biased. It's actually how he is.
Yeah, he doesn't... I don't care, like... Conservative people are going to agree with him.
Yeah.
And, God, I don't care about the politics. It's just, I don't think he's an ethical person.
No.
And sure, I don't care about Obama's politics. Obviously, whatever. Politics aside, when I see Obama, I see an ethical person. I see a real leader.
Somewhat. Again, it's so gray because he's also dropping bombs. But, like...
Right. Well, we don't know...
He seems like a reasonable person. Again, we never met him.
God, what I'm saying is, like, it's blatantly obvious that Trump is this. I can't trust this guy.
No.
If he's in the room, I got to be watching this guy because I don't know what he's capable of. So, I think ethics is more important than politics. But I mean, it's just such a complicated thing because neither of us know about politics.
And we also don't know these people, and it's just this.
It's a crazy complicated. That's why every time people talk about politics, it's like, God, we don't even. Yeah. You don't know what decisions these people are making, like the bombings and stuff. I don't want to be in the room making that decision of whether to drop the bombs or not. I mean, you're dropping the bombs, right? That's terrible, but you gotta have a real good reason to do that. So what was the alternative? The alternative was probably horrible too. Yeah. Well, definitely was.
It's weird. It's
so
a
shit.
Whole,
like I do not want to. That's responsibility.
I don't want that. That's too much responsibility, man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and like. That's an ethical decision that needs to be made. Like it's like the whole train track dilemma. Like you know, there's a train. It's gonna kill one person, but you can hit a lever, and that lever is gonna hop the train onto another track, and it'll kill. Excuse me, it's gonna kill 5 people, but then you choose for it to kill 1 person. It's the ethical thing to do. Quotations, you know, like
right.
It's better 1 person dies than 5 people die, but it's a heavy decision to make. And
especially because you got to do something about it to alter it.
Yeah.
You can't like just letting it. God, yeah.
And you don't know what down the line is gonna do because like maybe killing the 5 people is better because those 5 people are rapists and murderers and maybe the 1 person has 17 kids he needs to take care of and now you're affecting all of them. So it's like it's very complicated, but these people have to make that decision. Now Trump doesn't seem like a person who is going to think about it on a philosophical, ethical level. He's just gonna think about. Number 1.
This guy.
Yeah. He's got 2 thumbs and the nuclear bombs. This guy.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah, and that's just the thing, man. You can't. Again, you can't talk politics because we don't know, and you don't know all these other implications because you might actually have to drop bombs. You might actually have to kick a bunch of people out the country. You don't know.
I think we can talk politics because I don't think anybody knows about politics. Even politicians.
Even the politicians don't. Hey man, if Trump can be the president, anybody can be the president. So we can talk politics all we want. But yeah, let's cross our fingers that just the process of this gets better. And I think that's like you were saying earlier, like you know, we're figuring things out and we're heading in the right direction. And I think so. And every once in a while we have these drops and these hiccups and this, you know, those like those stock charts and all that stuff. Like you drop and you go back up, and this is going perfectly right. We need somebody like this. We need an AntiChrist. We need that so that we can see like, oh, we don't want to behave this way.
He's representing our shadow.
Yeah.
He's representing our repressed, suppressed, the worst things we're capable of. The worst. The Antichrist, right? And he's on TV. Yeah. He's like, here, look at the Antichrist. Take a good look of what you could be and what we could be if we fucking don't sort ourselves out, America.
Yep.
So,
be selfish. Let's see how it works out for you. Let's see what people think of you if you're selfish. And then, you know, the next person will come up and whether maybe it won't be the next president that's a better person. It might be worse. Who knows?
Oh, God. No celebrity.
But like...
At this point,
but like it'll you know the pendulum will swing back and forth, and it's like, oh, okay, we don't want to be like this. Oh, we want to be more like this. Oh, we want to be, and then we can keep striving. But I think it's just too deeply built into us to survive and to continue. Like no matter how many people are out there who are trying to sabotage everything and fuck things up, there's more people trying to make things go right. And the only way you can have those people is if the collective consciousness on itself, the entire thing is a healthy system. That's why you need religion and education and all these things, because if all this information that we got right in the last, you know, couple millennia that we've been putting together, and that's why we got to the point where we can think on, well, not each of us think, because the collective consciousness can think on the level that it does now, is because of all that we've done. And we're going to only get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit. As long as people aren't burning fucking libraries down and destroying the internet or whatever, we can continuously progress. And as long as we have responsible people, and we'll have responsible people as long as education is right, and we have the people who are responsible teaching other people to be responsible and all that, and spreading the important information, then we'll continue to keep pushing. So I'm super optimistic.
I believe.
As
Absolutely.
long as a button doesn't get pressed accidentally or on purpose, whatever it is, because that would be the thing that'll stop us from traveling through space and expanding humanity on an even crazier level. Because imagine what the collective consciousness will be when we're interstellar, you know?
Right.
And now we're talking about a supercomputer, you know what I mean? Like, it's just more neurological connections, each person being a neuron, more and more people on...
We're just that much closer to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or being God, whatever the fuck that means. God. It's beautiful.
Whatever that means. And we are part of God now, so we're like expanding God, but like just the human collective consciousness. Yeah, we'll get closer and closer to being omnipotent and omniscient. You know, we'll never be perfect.
As long as we keep checking ourselves.
Yeah.
Checking each other. That's what people are for. That's why we need people.
Mm-hmm.
The job of the parent is to... job of the parent is so the parent doesn't abuse the child. Mm-hmm. Raise a person that you would want to have around you, so that when you throw them into the world can tolerate them and they can navigate in the world. And so we need good fathers for that, and father being president or whatnot. And God, I agree with everything you said. It was well put. I think we're going to a good direction for the same reason.
You just see the fucking skyline light up. Oh shit! That's fucking beautiful. Grab a beer while you're up, right? Do you want a beer? Are you good? Okay. Yeah, man. Shit can go bad real fucking quickly. But again, there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. And again, it's just back to the whole responsibility thing. You're out?
You should be you should be the president. Congratulations.
Michael President. Michael for President. No fucking way. I would not be able to do it.
What's the name of the podcast, by the way?
Path of the Jaguar.
Path of the Jaguar.
Path of the Jaguar.
Brought to you.
Path of the Jaguar. What are you doing? You
I'm
chilling
out.
for a bit? You gotta go?
Gotta make a...
No, it's fine.
Gotta make a quick sandwich at home before I go to sleep, you know?
Oh, yeah, we've been going on for about like 40 minutes, so that's a good time to wrap it up. You want to end it up on that?
Yeah.
That was a good podcast, bro.
I'll be
Yo,
back.
welcome to your show. I'm happy you made it here. We'll keep pumping these out. It's a lot of fun. Hopefully everybody's enjoying everything that's going on. Comment, like, subscribe, share, and think for yourselves. Be responsible. Drink more water.
Drink more water.
Salud.